You know that feeling when you want to really get how something works, like the core ideas,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to wade through loads of jargon?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's what we're doing today, a deep dive into the cognitive science behind creativity. And we're using some great research from Mark Runko and Yvonne Chand.
Yeah, and their stuff is super useful because it builds on what we kind of already know about thinking, but it also really highlights what's unique about the creative spark itself.
Right.
We're going past just, think different. We're looking at the actual mental gears turning.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the mission for you listening, and you clearly are,
Sure.
is to get a solid grip on the key mental bits that cook up new ideas.
Yeah.
How do our brains actually do that? Make something original, and maybe we'll find some surprising stuff.
What's cool right off the bat is how Runko and Chand sort of organize it all. They've got this two-tiered model.
Okay.
At the core, the main level, you've got three things that are always interacting: problem finding, ideation, and judgment.
So it's not like step one, step two, step three. They're all mixed up.
Exactly. Yeah, they really stress how they're constantly playing off each other. Creativity isn't just that single light bulb moment. It's more like this continuous dance between spotting the right challenge, brainstorming options, and then figuring out which ones are actually any good.
All right, that makes sense.
Mhm.
So that's the engine. And the second tier is knowledge and motivation. Now, I would have guessed motivation is like number one. You got to want it, right?
Right. That's what you'd think.
But they see it differently.
They do. And this is a really interesting flip. They see knowledge and motivation as, yeah, important, they contribute, but they're not necessarily calling the shots. And here's a key idea for you. Often they argue you only get really motivated after you've looked at a problem and your brain goes, hey, yeah, that's actually interesting, worth tackling. Ah, okay. So the cool puzzle comes first, then the drive to solve it. That is a different way to think about it. All right, let's dig into knowledge then. They split it into know what and know how. For, the rest of us, what's the difference?
Think of it like this. Know what? That's declarative knowledge.
Yeah.
All the facts, the info you've got stored away.
Okay.
Procedural knowledge, the know-how, that's your understanding of how to do things,
Yeah.
strategies, methods, that kind of thing. And the crucial bit, both can help creativity or they can actually block it.
Right. So having tons of facts is good, but if you're stuck in old thinking patterns, you don't have that procedural flexibility. It could actually limit you.
Spot on. Yeah. And they use a really neat example from studies using those, how many uses for a paperclip type tests.
Oh, yeah, the divergent thinking test.
Exactly. Research found that just telling people explicitly, try to be creative, actually led to more original answers. That's procedural knowledge working. It's a strategic nudge for your brain. Wow, that's fascinating. It's like giving your brain permission. And as they say, it affects it for people differently, like gifted kids versus others.
Yeah, some earlier work by Runko suggested that. Those be creative instructions, they seem to boost originality more for both talented kids and typical kids compared to those identified as highly gifted.
Interesting.
The thinking is maybe the highly gifted kids already have good creative strategies, so the instruction doesn't add as much value for them.
They've already got the know-how. Okay, now what about the know what, the declarative knowledge, expertise you build up? Seems obvious you need that foundation, right?
Oh, absolutely. In most fields, you can't really make a big creative splash without putting in the years mastering what's already known. Think about prodigies, right? You see them young in music sometimes, but in math, usually much later. Maybe because math just needs this huge amount of foundational knowledge first.
Makes perfect sense. You got to know the rules to break them creatively. But, like we said, that expertise can also be a trap. Functional fixedness, they called it.
Exactly. If you get too locked into the right way or only see things for their usual purpose, it's really hard to break free and find something genuinely new. And that's got big implications for teaching, doesn't it? If we only give kids problems with one clear answer, maybe we're accidentally boxing them in.
Yeah, limiting that innovative thinking.
The key insight here for you is that just piling up facts isn't enough. You need the strategic know-how to actually use that knowledge in fresh ways. It's like having all the Lego bricks but no idea how to build anything cool.
Right. A delicate balance then. Knowledge, but also a fresh eye. Now, they also mentioned different memory types, episodic and semantic. How do they fit in?
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting. So episodic memory is like remembering your last birthday party, specific details, right?
Okay.
Semantic memory is more your general knowledge, like you know what a birthday party is, the concept. Runco suggests something kind of provocative. Just the act of reconstructing that general knowledge in your mind is in itself a creative process.
Even just remembering stuff, that sort of blues the lines, doesn't it?
It does, and it challenges that idea that only like famous inventions or artworks count as creative. This view suggests the internal mental work of just understanding and recalling things shares some basic processes with, painting the Mona Lisa. Or maybe not quite the Mona Lisa, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And they briefly touch on how memory fits into other creativity models, even AI trying to mimic insight, often seeing it as just pulling up stored info.
Okay, so knowledge and memory are the ingredients, but you need to actually do something with them, which leads to representations and transformation.
Precisely. Just retrieving info, not likely to be original. You got to manipulate it, reshape it, using analogies, metaphors, and other ways to transform what you already know, like a chef, right? Same ingredients, but new techniques make a totally new dish.
So it's that transformational power they mention, creating something really new in its form. And this Genusion process sounds cool, holding opposite ideas at once.
Yeah, think about big breakthroughs. Often they happen when someone can hold two ideas that seem totally contradictory and then see a new connection between them, embracing the paradox.
Right.
And then there's this key process, combining and recombining categories. They lay out steps, understand the bits, pull out the core features, make new groups based on those features, and then flesh out those new categories. It's a really active mental reshuffling.
That sounds powerful. And they mentioned that city-building curriculum that makes it really concrete.
Yeah, where kids are constantly reimagining this physical space. And these transformations, they happen at different levels, ideas, categories, even nonverbal images,
Okay.
which leads to things like the Geniplore model, this back and forth between generating possibilities and then exploring them, that dynamic interaction again. And cognitive complexity is related to being able to handle diverse, even conflicting information. That's often a sign of creative folks.
So it's not just having more info, but a more complex mental setup to handle it.
Exactly. And it underlines that we're not just passive receivers. We actively pick and choose info, interpret it, even define the problems we work on. Which brings us neatly to that first core component, problem finding.
Ah, yes, problem finding. This part often gets skipped over, doesn't it? We love the aha solution moment.
We do. But figuring out the right problem to even solve, that's just as critical, maybe even more so, for really original work.
And Runco and Chan say it's not just one skill. It's like a family of skills. Identifying, defining, expressing problems.
Yeah, and that distinction is important. Creativity isn't always about solving a puzzle someone else gave you. Sometimes the most creative move is asking a totally new question.
So is creativity always problem solving then? They mention self-expression too.
Great point. They draw a line between creativity aimed at a specific external issue and creativity that's more about an internal drive, getting something out. They even call it problem expression for that self-motivated stuff. The problem is more about bringing an inner vision to life.
That really broadens the definition. And what about that research with artists, the discovered problem solving?
Yeah, fascinating stuff. It showed artists who spent more time up front just exploring and defining what they wanted to tackle before they started painting or sculpting. They ended up making more original work.
Wow.
And it even held up years later in their careers. It really suggests that early stage, understanding the problem space has a lasting creative impact. Time spent defining isn't wasted time.
It's an investment. Okay. And Wakefield's work with kids, linking problem finding and divergent thinking.
That showed kids who were better at spotting potential problems in, like, a picture, also tended to do better on creativity tests. It backs up the idea that these skills, seeing problems and generating ideas, are connected. You kind of need to imagine possibilities to even see a problem, maybe.
Makes sense. And then Okuda, Runco, and Berger looked at real-world discovered problems. That sounds more practical.
Exactly. They found tasks that mimicked real life, where people had to find the problem themselves, were actually good predictors of creative ideation.
Better than the standard tests.
In some ways, yeah. It suggests the thinking you do when you're figuring out what the issue is might be different from the thinking you do when you're just solving a given puzzle. Makes you wonder, like you said, if schools should focus more on finding good problems.
Definitely food for thought. And Heinzen's study, challenge level and idea generation.
Right. They found that sweet spot. Moderately challenging problems led to the most ideas. Not too easy, not too hard.
Goldilocks problems.
Pretty much. It shows that link between how we feel and how we think creatively. Engagement without frustration seems key. And that link back to intrinsic motivation makes total sense. If you found the problem, you're going to be more invested, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so that's problem finding. Next core bit. Ideation. Generating the ideas themselves.
Yeah.
Associative theories and divergent thinking come in here.
Yep. Associative theories focus on making those unexpected connections, remote associates, linking things that don't obviously belong together.
Like the RE test measures.
Exactly. And research shows your first ideas are often the common ones. It takes time. You have to let your mind wander a bit to hit those more original, less obvious links.
Oh.
So yeah, that advice to sleep on it or not judge ideas too quickly, there's cognitive science behind it.
Good to know. And divergent thinking. You said it has a mixed reputation.
Yeah, some people mistakenly equate it with creativity, others dismiss it. The balanced view seems to be it's a useful estimate of creative potential, especially in certain domains. It's part of the picture, not the whole picture.
And it's not just one score, is it? Guilford and Torrance broke it down.
Right. You've got fluency, just the sheer number of ideas, originality, how unique they are, flexibility, the variety, how many different categories your ideas cover.
Okay.
And then others added things like transformational power building on ideas and appropriateness. Are the ideas actually relevant? Useful?
Appropriateness. That sounds tricky. An idea could be super original, but totally useless.
Right. That's the rub. Originality is key, but ideas usually need some relevance or value in context, but defining appropriate. Very subjective, depends on the situation. Interestingly, some research even suggests the trade-off. Sometimes the most original ideas are the least obviously appropriate at first glance. And there's debate about whether fluency, originality, flexibility are really separate things or just facets of one ability.
But developmental research suggests they mature differently.
Yeah, which supports the idea they might rely on distinct cognitive processes. So for educators, just pushing for more ideas, focusing only on fluency might not be the best strategy. You need to nurture uniqueness and cognitive flexibility too.
Right. Makes sense. Okay, we've found problems, generated ideas. What's next? The unsung hero. Evaluation and judgment.
Exactly. The gatekeeper. You can have a million ideas, but you need to sort the wheat from the chaff. And yeah, it's often overlooked in creativity research.
We focus on the spark, not the critical eye needed afterwards. But it sounds like this evaluation isn't just cold logic. It needs to value novelty, too.
Spot on. Runco and Chan stress that creative evaluation has to appreciate originality and flexibility, not just whether an idea fits the mold. Their work looked at how well people judge their own ideas' creativity and how self-awareness metacognition factors in.
So knowing your own thinking helps you judge your ideas.
Seems so. And they also looked at how accurately kids and adults judge ideas generally.
Right, not just their own, but others too.
Yeah, and here's a fascinating finding. Being good at judging your own work doesn't automatically make you good at judging someone else's.
Really? Why is that?
Well, think about it. The creator knows the whole backstory, all the dead ends they explored, the constraints they were working under.
The judge only sees the final product.
Exactly. So there can be predictable gaps in understanding. It makes you question how we use external judges for creativity contests or assessments.
Definitely. And they link judgment to classification skills, how we categorize things.
Yeah. When you judge an idea, you're basically putting it in a mental box. Original, appropriate, feasible, whatever. And this idea of category width comes up again.
The flexible categories.
Right. Creative people might have broader, more porous categories, letting them see connections others miss, or interpret things in more varied ways, which influences their judgments.
And the anchoring heuristic, how does that bias creative judgment?
It's the idea that our first impression or existing knowledge anchors our judgment. Like maybe because we're so used to language, we subconsciously favor conventional verbal ideas over more abstract visual ones when judging creativity.
So familiarity breeds less creative judgment.
Potentially. And the practical tip for you, try working with unfamiliar topics or materials. It might bypass those anchors and lead to more original thinking and evaluation. Step outside the comfort zone.
Good advice. And the fact that judgment is partly a choice reinforces that active role we play.
Okay, core cognitive stuff covered. What about motivation, personality, style? Super important add-ons. Like we said, capability isn't performance. You need the drive motivation. But again, Runco and Chan argue that intrinsic drive often kicks in after you see a meaningful challenge. Though newer research suggests intrinsic motivation alone might not always be the whole story either. It's complex.
More nuanced than just follow your passion and personality and style.
Definitely influence things. Traits like openness, persistence, comfort with ambiguity, they affect how you tackle creative work, and cognitive style, like are you a quick brainstormer or a deep diver on one idea, that shapes your process and output too, beyond just raw ability.
So it's this whole mix, thinking skills drive personal approach,
Yeah.
and they wrap up stressing interactions and warning against simple stage models.
Yes. Real creativity isn't linear. Problem finding affects ideation, which affects judgment, which might send you back to redefine the problem. It's recursive, dynamic.
Always looping back.
Exactly. Studying how these parts interact probably tells us more than looking at each in isolation. And for education, that's key for seeing individual creative profiles where someone's strengths and weaknesses lie in that interactive process.
Recognizing unique toolkits, not a single path.
Precisely. So cognitive research gives us this much richer, multifaceted view beyond just simple slogans. Basic thinking skills matter, sure, but creativity pushes us into more subjective, novel territory, and a final caution from them. Don't just brainstorm endlessly without critical judgment.
Quantity isn't quality.
Right. Just generating tons of ideas isn't the goal. And there's growing interest in how our preconscious mind helps filter ideas, though that's still debated, especially with AI researchers. They also remind us that judging creativity is inherently subjective.
Our own biases play a role.
Definitely. What seems creative to me might not to you. It echoes Elkind's idea about educators needing to remember how differently students might be seeing things like cognitive aliens.
Good point. We need to be mindful of our own lens. So, the big takeaway for you listening.
It's embracing the complexity. Creativity isn't one thing. It's this amazing interplay of thinking, motivation, personality, context. And while that sounds complicated, it also means there are lots of different levers we can pull to foster it in ourselves and others.
That's a great way to put it. So as you go about your day, maybe notice these different bits, problem finding, ideating, judging how they play out in your own head, whether it's a work thing, a hobby, or just looking at the world differently. It's all part of that amazing, messy, complex thing we call creativity.